Hello, my name is Ramon Oliveira and this is the U.S. Navy 7th Fleet Force Projection Improvement Project. Recently, the U.S. Navy has deemed it necessary to have an increased presence on the Pacific theater to maintain stability. This is due to increased aggression and presence by the regional nations that the U.S. Navy considers adversaries. Examples of this are China's increased presence and aggression uh, on the South China Seas, going so far as to having man-made islands with airstrips built into them. North Korea's increased testing of long-range ballistic missiles and nuclear weapons, and Russia's increased aggression, starting with the annexation of Crimea and increased flights over the skies in Europe. To have an increased presence in the Pacific theater, we have only a few options. Either have more ships present at the Pacific theater, which will mean either making more ships or moving ships from other places in the world to the Pacific theater. Making the ships will take too long, not to mention being very expensive. And moving ships from other places around the world would weaken other regions that the U.S. have interest in or presence in to bolster the Pacific theater. And this is not an option. Therefore, the U.S. Navy wants to increase the presence, sea presence, or the force projection without actually increasing the number of ships. This means that we need to have the same amount of ships but more time at sea, which increases the maintenance and repair burden on the ships and the repair facilities. Therefore, we have to improve the way that repairs and maintenance are performed at the Yokosuka ship repair facility, which is the main hub of repairs for the Pacific Theater. This is a picture of the U.S. Navy 7th Fleet returning to Yokosuka, which is a battle group with a number of carriers, cruisers, and the main weapon of the combat group, which is the U.S. carrier. So the way the way the project came up to be was by focusing the procedures that will take the longest and will have the longest or most complicated and will have the biggest impact or consequence. So our focus was on vital systems, which are the hull, propulsion, and power generating systems. So without hull to actually make sure that the ship can survive combat and rough sea states, propulsion so the ship is mobile, and power generating systems, meaning electricity, because they need electricity to actually run their systems. So the focus was put into those three types of procedures, and from there we took input from the stakeholders, which is Ship Force, which is the actual Navy personnel aboard the ships, SRF planners, which is the people that actually plan the jobs and coordinate with Ship Force to determine what needs to be fixing and how we go about fixing it, and the production facilities inside SRF, which are the actual mechanics and welders, pipe feeders, everything that the ship needs for their systems to be repaired. Going through this methodology, we managed to improve around close to 50% of the procedures we set about to improve. The way we did it is by having input from the stakeholders, and most of them were improved by shifting more responsibility into the ship force for having preparation work, being prep work being done by them instead of shipyard workers. So that work could start at sea, which will greatly improve or reduce the amount of time required to complete repair procedures. Um, Also, we talked with the ship repair planners to reduce the critical path schedules. So the critical path is the minimum amount of time that the ship uh, can be in port, meaning this vital systems have to be repaired, and this is the minimum amount of time that all this repairs will take. So that's the critical path, the minimum amount of time that the required procedures or repairs will take. So if we improve the critical path, the overall schedule or the overall length of the availabilities would be reduced as a consequence of it. So we managed to have a reduction of around 10% for our new type of critical path schedule, and we think or we project that we'll have a 10 to 15% reduction of availability time due to the improved procedures and the improved critical path. And going back to the procedures, we only managed to improve around 50% of the ones that we set out to, because the other 16 procedures that we could not be improved were due to them not having enough time to be implemented in this availability, and needing ship force to be more having a new approach on training, so they can actually improve the new procedures to be performed by ship force at sea without needing SRF to actually come in and do the procedures for them. This would highly reduce the strain on ship SRF personnel, and would, in my opinion, greatly streamline their maintenance. So again, the procedure breakdown, 22 procedures were improved, and then the 16 that could not improve for not having enough time and needing special tooling and more training for ship force so they could perform it at sea. And the critical path. So this is an example of critical path procedures that will be coming up for the USS McCain coming up shortly. So we have propeller repairs, which is the propulsion system, propulsion shafting inspections, which is again propulsion, the gas turbine generators inspection, which is the power generating gas turbines, the inspection of the propulsion gas turbines, which again is propulsion, and a repair on one of the electricity generating gas generators. Like you could see in here, the longest work was the number 1 gas turbine generator repairs, which will take 20 days with the new improved schedule, due to ship force doing a lot of the prep work before the ship gets to the pier. They can start opening up the engine and start taking out interferences and stuff that would impede the actual repair, and starting with the gas turbine generators and then the propeller repairs. So that will be the critical path. This is the minimum amount of time that the availability will take to do all these inspections and repairs accounting on the new procedures and the actual schedule. And then this is the pictures of the USS McCain DD-56 in dry dock, and with the collision damage showing on the picture on the left. This was a few years back when it hit transport ship, and this is something that it's still been repaired to this day, which is it had extensive damage due to the collision. So in conclusion, for this project, we had mixed results due to not being able to achieve all the improvements on procedures that we wanted. 22 out of 38, it's a good start, but it was not what we expected when we started this procedure improvement push. The measure improvement on scheduling practice, a 10% increase. It might not look seem like much, but 10% from a start point, which is the way we see it. This is a starting point, and then we have room to improve going forward. Again, this is the overall improvement makes it worthwhile. A 10 to 15% decrease in the time of the availabilities will mean days per availabilities that the ship will be on a operational readiness available to deploy at a moment's notice if it's required. And with the more procedures being shifted over to ship force being done at sea, they will be able to stay out longer without having to come to SRF for repairs and maintenance, so they can stay out at sea longer, which further improves their force projection of the Pacific theater. And as I mentioned before, this is an important first step for a continuous improvement. This is just the first step on how we can keep improving procedures and keep streamlining work and maintenance between Ship Force and SRF to actually keep improving the procedures, keep moving more maintenance, if at all possible, to Ship Force to be performed at sea, so they can keep on working or keep on patrolling on the Pacific theater and to maintain stability on the region. Thank you very much, and this is the end of the presentation.